Good morning, guys. This is Shatanya Ami. Welcome to the new season of A Pursuit to Happiness. I know it's been a while since I spoke to you guys, but I've been on a little hiatus, but I am back. And I had to come back for this special time that's near and dear to me in honor of Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. So, this is the best time to start back and get back engaged with my friends and followers and just, keep us on track of great mental health and at peace. And so today I have an amazing person here with me who's going to talk with us and share some tips and just give us some insight about her life and different things, and just to keep our mental health together and just to figure out some triggers that may be happening in your life and you don't even notice it. But I'm here with Dr. Bethany Cook, and she is going to introduce herself and we're going to chit chat with you guys. So here is Dr. Bethany Cook.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love what you're doing for everyone, and I'm looking forward to our chat. So I am a licensed clinical psychologist, a health service psychologist, a music therapist, board certified, and I also am an adjunct professor. And then I have a small private practice here in Chicago and am the mom of 2 humans and 3 lovely dogs.
Oh, it's so funny that everything that you're doing is what I wanted to do in school.
I love it.
That's everything I wanted to do in school. I wanted to be a psychologist. The only thing I don't know, and like if you can explain that to me and the listeners, is music therapy. Like I know that music makes me feel amazing. I don't know if this is the same thing or what you're talking about, but I know I get into a zone and I can just like feel music, and sometimes it just makes me tear up and get emotional because I just feel it. But is that what you're talking about? But what is musical therapy?
Music therapy, that's a great question. And everything that you're describing is a component of how a music therapist would utilize the power of music. So a really simple definition is that music therapy uses music to reach a non-musical goal or objective. So if an individual has had a stroke, or your child has difficulty holding a spoon to eat, often what we'll do is I'll give them a drumstick and they will hit a drum or a mallet or something like that. And the music structures your brain in a way that no other modality, or I don't even know, anything can impact it in the same way. So when you listen to music, if you were to have a scan of your brain, your entire brain's lit up like a Christmas tree.
Wow.
So blood gets to areas that it doesn't always get to. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, depression, motherhood, and all kind of stuff. But a part of those issues are that your brain isn't getting the blood flow to specific areas that it needs to. And when you listen to music, it's kind of like just a blood blast, but not in a bad way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I would sometimes, and another thing you can do with music is you can use it to facilitate conversations in groups, especially with teens. Often individuals are happy to talk about somebody in a song, but they don't want to talk about their own issues.
Wow.
And I could go on and on and on, but music therapy is awesome. And it really works, and it sucks that like insurance and our corporate world can't see the power of music or reimburse it, because we'd probably have more music therapists if that was a possibility.
That is true, because I never thought about it like that, and like that like what you just said made so much sense, because I always thought I was crazy, just like because I know I would listen to music like, okay, like my guilty pleasure is Hotel California. I don't know who.
Nice.
I'm like obsessed with the Eagles, and when I hear Hotel California, when I say like the emotions that just come in like tears of happiness, and I'm like, what is going on? And like certain songs just bring that out of me, and I feel so good, and it's just like, Wow. So I could totally understand what you're saying where, it could help, but that's totally good to know. Also, like children, so like with children with autism, that would help with them.
Huge. Yeah, for social
Wow.
skills, social learning, or like any child, because one of the things that you can do is you can imprint instructions or steps to tasks. So think about if you have a young child or your child is older, autistic, Down syndrome, something where getting them to brush their teeth or remembering the steps of brushing their teeth is a struggle. So don't say it. You can sing it. Rewrite the lyrics to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And that will help them encode that information. They go and they sing the song. And the thing about music is that there's a rhythm and there is movement, and the music moves thought. People who stutter don't stutter when they sing.
Wow.
Oh. And this is why. Yeah, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So anyways.
We're going to have to do a whole episode on that.
Yes, we will. Like I said, I can get distracted very easily.
Oh my God. I just find that so interesting. Okay.
It is.
So to jump into our original plan, because I could be a scatterbrain sometimes, and my listeners know that I could jump all over the place. I want to get into knowing you, because I feel like everyone has their foundation, and I feel like that little child, to me, I feel like always still lives in there, but it's just like, we just become big kids and that have to act like adults, because like I'm like totally a big kid, and I feel like we're just a big kid that have to act like adults. So just tell me a little bit about your life, like you as a little girl. Who was Bethany, the little girl that was running around either playing with flowers or whatever? Like, what was she doing? Where was she at? Was she in Chicago? Like, tell me about little Bethany.
Oh, she was a terror. She was out of control. So ADHD, I have ADHD and dyslexia, so I have the very energetic type. Wow. And I'm adopted, and so the first 9 months of my life, I lived with my biological mom, grandma, aunt, 7 foster homes, was adopted once and returned, and then my parents got me.
God.
So I have, and I'm much better, but attachment issues, trust is kind of there, and I just have always kind of felt like a rolling stone, and that I belonged to the world as a whole. So I never really felt like an orphan, and I was, very loved in my home. But just this idea, and maybe even if I wasn't adopted, I would still feel this way, but I've never felt like I have a specific group of people that I belong to or that I jive with. I just feel like I love everybody, and I can find something about every culture, every person that I want to learn about or know about. And so I don't know if it was that early experience that kind of laid that foundation for me or not, but I feel like I'm a member of the family of humanity, more so than like Irish Catholic or German or,
Right. And I love that. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off. Like, I love that being a part of the humanity, because I think sometimes we miss that. And I think that's what just in our development as human beings, sometimes we can't connect to other people. So having that feeling, because that's what causes all the other dramas that goes on in life.
Amen. Yes. It's all about connections. Humans are biologically wired to be social. We have to connect. And that old African proverb that says the child who is rejected by the village will burn it down to feel the warmth.
Right. It's so true. It's so true.
It's all about connection.
That's amazing. It's an amazing story. So yes, continue on. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't.
That's okay. I love it. Cut me off anytime, because I can also just ramble and ramble. So we might be on here for hours and hours today.
And that's fine.
Good. So my mom, so when you think about, well, no, I'm not gonna. I can get off on tangents too. I was just gonna do a mini lecture.
Okay.
I'm gonna just tell you about me and stay focused. So I had a lot of energy growing up. My mom wasn't quite sure what to do with me. I had an older sister who was also adopted, but very different temperament-wise. And so I spent a lot of time by myself in the woods. Just my mom was like, go have fun. We'll see you. I was raised in the 80s. We are the Gen X. The parents go, we'll see you when it's dark kind of thing and you're kind of on your own. I was 3 years old and I climbed a pussy willow tree outside our home. It was a single story home, but I'm on the house. My mom comes out thinking some loud squirrel. So I had so much energy. Obviously, I had trauma from my very early years that people didn't think about that kind of stuff back then. Yeah, no. And sometimes my mom, when she couldn't handle me, would just drop me off to a family of friends of ours who had like 6 kids, right? So I just kind of fit in and had somebody to play with, I guess. And I remember when I was 8 years old and I made a conscious choice to be good rather than bad. And it was like, it's the weirdest, one of those weird core memories. And I was just like, you know what? I think being good's better. So, I don't know. I would go to the neighbor's house, knock on the doors, ask them if they had food or candy or kids to play with. Just kind of crazy like that. Always
being resourceful.
Yeah, definitely resourceful. Got what I needed. I just went out and got it, right? So that's that Rolling Stone thing. My mama ain't gonna buy me candy. Damn it, I'll go buy my own candy.
Exactly.
I need you to give me candy. I'm 4 years old. I know people got candy, and this house got gumballs. Every time I go, I get some. Damn. Lord, yes, exactly. I've been like this forever. So, get my own needs met. I grew up in a small town in Indiana. You asked about Chicago. So, no, I grew up in a very small town. Lots of cornfields, lots of space for me just to kind of grow. And I had a vivid imagination. My mom didn't really let us watch much TV, which was fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But, of course, as a child, you don't like that. Yeah. And I loved learning and reading and animals. I really loved animals. So that's, I guess, a little bit about me as a kid. My mom bought me a patch that said, "Here comes trouble," and I wore that shit with pride. So, you're going to name it. You're going to name your kid a bad name. They're going to own that shit. So don't call your kid that if you don't want them to own it. I'll tell you right now.
That is so true. I've always said that, like, your children become what you name them. So you have to be very conscious of what you name your children, because they definitely become that. You know what I find interesting? Because, like, listening to your story, and it's like, it has the part of sometimes when people listen to it and it would sound like it would be a sad story, but then I feel like also it is something that built such an amazing person, because I feel like so many people, and like including myself, like not just calling myself an amazing person, but so many.
No, you are, girl. Everybody's got amazing qualities. Everybody does, and you do too. I love it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
But like I think I feel like so many people who have such rough starts and such traumatic starts and all these different things. Like my favorite person, Dr. Wayne Dyer, like he grew up in an orphanage and going in and out of foster homes and stuff like that until his mother got him back. And then he became this person who just, his mission was to help and uplift, but through after his trials and tribulations of alcohol and drug abuse and things like that. And then, coming through your story, and then with my story, the same. Like my story, I didn't have, wasn't in and out of foster homes or adopted. But it was funny because just last night I said, I wish I was. I used to say, I wish somebody would have came and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, I'm your mother and this lady was," because my childhood was so traumatic, and just like, it's just like, living in a home with abuse and, just a disconnected mother who was just dealing with her own mental issues that, like you said, in the 80s, no one thought about these things. No one, took time to fix these things, or no one ever asked like what was going on with me, or, and how you said you chose that you would be good. Like that was always my choice, because there was so much chaos and abuse going on in the home. And I was like, if I just stay quiet and hide in this corner, maybe she wouldn't notice me and I would kind of like escape the, the abuse.
The wrath.
Yeah, the wrath. But it's like, it didn't work. But it was like, I think it worked a little bit better because I knew my sister was horrible and she was always catching the wrath. So I was okay. Let me.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, whether it's good grease or bad grease, for sure.
Exactly. So, I feel like in a way it kind of builds us to want to help and, become these people. And it's so many different ways that it could have went a different way. And I'm happy that it went this way, that, you're here talking to us today and, about to give us some more amazing advice.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah. So, going on, so like, when did, like, speaking on that, like, when did you, know that you wanted to help people? Like, when did that thought of, like, going to school and being a clinical psychologist, like, when you were in high school, like, what sparked that in you, that you wanted to get into the minds of people and help people out, and just this whole other journey of yourself?
Great question. So mine starts with music. Music was my only real escape growing up. And it was the first place I felt validation for lots of different things. And I used to volunteer and play my violin. I started violin when I was 7, and oh my God, so squeaky. I'm nursing homes. They couldn't really hear, so they didn't mind. But I would go to the nursing homes and play music for people because they liked it. And like I said, I love everybody, old people, young people, babies. I just, I'm always kind of with a kind of a Pied Piper. And when I was 12 years old, I saw an interview with a music therapist named Deforia Lane. And I was like, what? I could play music for people for a living and get to do what I intrinsically felt the power of, right? Yeah. I knew music helped, and it was the thing that saved me. So of course I want to use music. And then I got 2 degrees in music therapy. I did internships. I lived in Pittsburgh, moved to Chicago, was working with the criminally insane. Wow. I had a choir. Wow. We did a Christmas concert. It was awesome. Wow. And then I realized, well, 2 things, I guess, kind of came together. I always wanted to get my doctorate in something because I just love learning, and I wanted to get to the highest level of education or academia. And I'm super competitive too, which isn't great sometimes. And it's good, but it's not. And then the other thing was, I was realizing when I was doing music therapy that I didn't have the foundational understanding of mental illness, really, or behaviors. How do we become who we are? How do our experiences that are shared with other people influence us in such different and unique ways? And so I was like, I got to get a doctorate in psychology. And because I want to work with people, I was researching programs, many PhD, and then I stumbled upon a PsyD. And I was like, what's a PsyD? And I looked into that, and a PsyD versus a PhD essentially means that much of your work in your doctorate program is actually hands-on working with clients. I love that. You have diagnostic practicums where you give oodles and oodles of tests. You learn how to do the WAIS, the WISC, the personality test, the Rorschachs, the MMPIs. And then you have another practicum for a whole year. These are both year-long. A whole year doing therapy, different sites. Then you have a year-long internship. And there's so much supervision along the way. It's just very different from a PhD program where much of it is research-oriented, maybe very specifically I keep saying happiness. This individual maybe researches happiness or something like that, where clinical is very global. And so I didn't recognize that I wanted clinical psychology until I had kind of matched where I wanted with the music therapy and needed more knowledge in that essence. And so I went towards the clinical path with the PsyD.
I love that, because I feel like you get more, to me, I feel like, especially with my career before getting into coaching meditation and into, just trying to help people, it was more about, I was into fashion. I was a fashion stylist. Yeah. So I used to travel the world and style celebrities and work in fashion. So you can already understand that I was dealing with a bunch of head cases, which made me an extra head case. So it's like,
it's hard. It's external. Yeah. And in that world, a lot of external need for validation and stuff. And so it can feel very empty inside when you're just looking for the outside approval. Yeah.
So that definitely took a toll on me mentally. But it was the hands-on part that worked that was so good for me because, I went to school, but I wanted to go to school for law. And then, like also I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do child psychology. But then I realized that I take on so much stuff. When people tell me things, I internalize it so bad and it makes me so sad. So I was like, okay, this might not be the thing for me, because I would hear people's story and I'm crying and then thinking about it for days, and I'm like, okay, I would be a wreck sitting here.
It's funny. I mean, everybody is made for their own kind of ilk. I wanted to be a vet, and I couldn't. The same thing you described, I couldn't do that with the animals. I would just be like, oh. But with people, I feel like I can give them tools, and I see their humanity, and I hear their stories and find their strength within that, and help them reconnect to that, and that is so fulfilling to me. I love it. So I hear what you're saying. For sure.
Yeah, so that was like, so I was like, okay, let me pull back from that. But I feel like now this is my new missionary work of I can still help people from afar and give people advice, and then I don't have to worry about, okay, I'm in bed a week because of all the trauma that happened to you as a child. Like, so okay. So this is like my new way of being able to handle it. But so for people who, and also for myself, like to help enlighten, because I deal with myself with PTSD. I just started my cuz okay, so when I had not had, but cuz you don't really get completely cured from certain things, but like my battle and my struggle with anxiety and depression and all these different things that kind of started up as a child that came into my adulthood, what I started doing to help cope with that was meditation. And even with, and that helped me tremendously. Like that literally saved my life. Like you said, music saved your life. The meditation like completely saved my life. But also just not understanding the 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 technical terms or having a complete understanding. I just started therapy because I said, you know what, I'm a new expecting mother, and I said I want to make sure that I'm 100% better, like, have some tools, because and like you're going to talk about later, pregnancy brings up all those emotions and hormones. And I was like, I don't want to go back. So I said, you know what, get into therapy and get some extra tools. Like you have your meditation, but get some professional help as well. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what is the difference between mental health, mental illness, and the different things, like what's going on in the brain when people are dealing with anxieties and depressions and like PTSD? Like, what does that look like? Because there's such a stigma connected to, I'm glad that we're getting out of that space where people are sad, embarrassed to admit it, and we're becoming more aware. But there's still people, especially in my community, in the Black community, it's frowned upon to go to therapy. It's like, oh, you're crazy or whatever, or like we're so gun-ho on just religion. Oh, pray about it. You can't pray away anxiety or depression. Like sometimes there's some people who really just need medication or they need extra help. So if you could kind of like clear some of those things up for people, that way, if they are going through those things, and they can understand that it's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be, it's not your fault. And, just, yeah.
Absolutely. I get where you're going. I got you. Okay. All right, here we go. So I love to come from the proactive, preventative side of everything. Mental illness, obviously the word illness, somebody's sick. I like to call it mental health. But when you describe mental illness, what that means essentially is that an individual is either no longer able to feel a full range of emotions, right? Maybe they get stuck on potentially negative emotions. That thoughts can be so overwhelming that they distract you from your day-to-day life. Right. That can be obsessive thinking, that could be anxiety, that could be PT, that could be lots of stuff fill into these just very general things I'm sharing. And or you start behaving in a way that's atypical for you. Maybe you have been chill forever and all of a sudden you can't sleep for 3 days straight and you are so wired and you're awake and you are like feeling like you could conquer the world and you're so happy. That's the very first manic episode somebody would potentially be experiencing. And so if your behaviors are atypical, if your thoughts are so overwhelming or disjointed or confusing that it's making life's day-to-day activities difficult, or you feel stuck with your emotions, those to me are signs of mental illness. Right. Okay. Just meaning that like your brain isn't functioning the way that it has been in the past or the best that it could. It's not optimal. It's like a car. You have to take your car in to get tune-ups and stuff. You go to the doctor for your physical body. Your brain's no different. Right. No, I understand that because it's like it's the difference of being able to differentiate different emotions and sometimes because I know that I've dealt with this in the past, getting stuck on one mindset and just can't turn it off. I can't shake it. And now I'm crying like, oh God, why am I in this mindset? And it's just like this funk that you're in, and it's just this thought pattern that just keeps going. So, and I know for myself, sometimes not being able to differentiate reality from just a thought. Like there's literally nothing going on in my life that I could be stressed out about or crying about, but that's where I'm at. And I'm like, there's literally nothing going on. What is wrong with you? So, and that could just be that you've just described that you grew up in a very chaotic home, that things are, always kind of in turmoil. And when you as an individual live in an environment like that, that becomes your quote normal. It doesn't mean that it's a healthy environment, but that's your normal. And humans, we like what's familiar. And so when chaos is familiar, that feels comfortable. When you all of a sudden don't have any chaos in your life and you are looking around going, oh my God, I got no drama. I'm like, what's going on? You feel very out of your comfort zone, and crying is absolutely natural. That is so true. It's like I'm fishing for something to worry about. I'm fishing for something to be scared about. I'm like, and I'm putting 10 on nothing, and I'm like, and then I'm going and fishing into the past and then going into the future and like, but what if this happens? And it's just like, I think that's exactly what it is. Like so accustomed to the chaos and the crazy of life. And when it's normal, when it's the real normal, it's not normal. Right. It doesn't feel normal. Yeah. Okay. I got it. So that is definitely, so people, if you're feeling that way, okay. Now, so now we're going to get into what we can do in those type of situations. So in those cases, and what a person who's feeling these overwhelming thoughts, or if they're in that place of like manic mode, or maybe not even manic mode, but I know for myself, I used to have like these thoughts, like especially when at the height of when I was most suicidal, it would be these thoughts of, oh, things aren't going to work out, and things will just keep getting worse. And it was just like this record that was just playing in my head constantly. Or when you're just feeling in those funks, like what are tools or what are signs that maybe you should try to seek some type of either help from a friend, like talk to someone, or either professional help? Like what are some, signs that you might need to,
work on that, or tools to get you off that cliff?
Gotcha. First things is, therapy is so valuable, and it's not something that you have to do the rest of your life.
Right.
I think there's often a misperception that we're all Woody Allen. Right. God, that was hard to say. Jeez. and we all know it hasn't helped him. Lord, he marries his daughter. Like, come on, God. Adopted daughter. It's just sick, right. Dude. God damn. Anyway, exactly. So therapy and his approach hasn't worked. So you're not going to be in it forever. And I want people to get back to normal living. So what signs? The sign that when people come to see me, it is, what has brought you here today? Something's brought you here. More than likely it is, I'm not happy with my life. I feel stuck. Or I am unable to perform at work. Or I'm getting in trouble because I'm forgetting things. So essentially, when your mental health gets to a state where you aren't able, again, to function in the way that you were or could potentially, that is a sign that something could maybe be talked about or worked through, or something's coming up for you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes this stuff is unconscious, right? So let's say a woman was sexually assaulted and she's never kind of dealt with that, and a lot of her trauma or a lot of memories are about things that happened to her breasts, and then she has a baby and the baby starts breastfeeding. Stuff's going to come up. Right. And sometimes we think about it, sometimes we don't think about it. Mm-hmm. But getting a professional who is trained to hopefully see things or have more of an objective perspective, is what I call it, can help. So if you find yourself doing things that you wouldn't typically do, stay in bed all day or go out and stay up all night, those are signs that you maybe should talk to a friend. If you have a close friend and you've thought about harming yourself, talk to them about it. Yeah. If you make a new friend and this is part of your history, you can say, I'm not feeling suicidal now, but this is how I have felt in my past. If I start to feel this way, can I reach out to you? Right. You're essentially making kind of a network, right, a support system. And everybody's different. That's the thing when it comes to what coping strategies can work or not work. Exercise is great because whether you like to exercise or not, your body releases neurochemicals that make you feel better. Dopamine. You can't not take a 20-minute exercise routine and not feel better afterwards. So I always say exercise if you can, to help kind of stave off some of those more just heavier moods, or if you start to feel yourself to go that way, make yourself take 2 walks. So coping with it using exercise is really, really great. I love music. We've talked about music. I love music. So music's another really good one. Like I said, I've explained earlier how it impacts the brain. Also is very validating when you hear somebody else's experience. Sometimes the music itself, there are certain chordal progressions that can elicit memories in individuals. So listening to music's really important. Massage. What is it that makes you feel good? Something that's a nice bath where it smells and you have candles out. Oh, yeah. It doesn't have to be expensive. That's the thing. Right. So true. A walk in nature. Right. So true. So true. Definitely. Candles, nature, and all of that. Those are definitely good things. Music. And these are things that are right. First of all, we live in an age of smartphones. You can find everything that you need on your phone, like the music on your phone, meditation music, or anything that just take you out of that moment. Definitely candles and stuff like that. Scent, I realize, I used to keep lavender oil around me. So that's so relaxing too. But I love the fact that you mentioned being open with your friends and letting them know your history, because that was something that I didn't do, especially growing up. And when I was around 14, I started cutting. I was a cutter. And these aren't things that I shared. And, when I went the first time, I remember my first time sharing with the person that I was suicidal was, I think I might have been 26, 27. And I remember
a friend called me, and she like she could hear it in my voice that something was up. Like because I was searching around my house. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find something. There got to be something in here. And that's the one thing. If you got those thoughts, please keep that stuff out of your house. Because like I used
Definitely.
to keep anything that you can make things happen with out of your house. Because I was searching. I was like, there's literally nothing here but vitamins. All I'm gonna do is get super energized, and that's not gonna help the situation.
Right.
But I was open with her, and I told her, and she was like, I'm coming over. She lived up the street. Her name was Angela. And she said, I'm coming over. She came up the street, and she just, was there for me. Yeah. And then I had, over the years, I just became a little bit more comfortable. And so like even down like when the pandemic happened and I was starting to get in that place, I started to open up to my friends and just be able to let them know, like, this is what I'm dealing with. And, I'm not in a good place today. And they would show up or like just send them a text. I'm in my head. I'm not in a good place. And my friend would be like, pack your bag and come on over. Like, so you have a support system if you utilize them. Know. Yeah, you got to let people know. You can't be ashamed or afraid. And if you do, open up to someone and you don't get the results that doesn't mean that everyone is going to do that.
Oh my God, no. And that says a lot about that person.
Right.
I've trained I tell everybody it is 99% about them, yes. 1% about you.
Right, exactly. So you can open up to people and let people know where you are. And then you'll have that support team that when you're going to therapy, because even with that, sometimes you need to have people to talk to after your sessions and like, this is what's going on. This is what I talk to my friends now after my therapy sessions and, let them know, like, this is what I realized and just being more open and not being embarrassed about these things anymore. Asking Definitely. For help, asking for letting people know. And then also for the other people who are not, now I'm going to get preachy, but for the people who are not dealing with these things, ask your friends what's going on. If you notice that your friend is acting different, looks different, you've seen they've been in the bed forever, or you came to their house and their house is a wreck when it's normally nice and tidy and like they're just slumping around. Ask them what's going on. Don't just assume people are okay because, they're running around smiling. I said that I lied for 37 years that I was happy and I was not. Aww. Every time people would say, how are you doing? Oh, I'm great. Like I was I was the biggest liar and the greatest actress. I should have Oscars all over my house.
Yeah, you should. And the funny thing is I hate that. That's one of my pet peeves is when you ask somebody how they are and they're always like, I'm fine. Yeah. So when I'm not fine and somebody asks me, and I just go, oh my God, I'm not fine. I just found out, and you can just see this person like go, oh. What the fuck's wrong with her? I'm like, nothing. You asked me. You want me to be honest or what?
Yes. Lord. Or just give you this generic default answer that, so you could just move on with your life. But no, I'm not fine. I'm really not okay right now.
Right.
Like, and then sometimes I know because a lot of people, when I did open up about what was going on with me, a lot of people were so shocked because they were like, whoa, you have this amazing career. You work with celebrities and you travel the world. And what do you have to be unhappy about? And it's like, what?
You're like, you don't get it, man. What? You don't get it.
Like these things don't make, I would come from the most amazing situations and come home and just cry. And it's like, so these things, outside things don't make you happy. So so to get off of that one. So I want to dive into what your mission is too with your book, because you're not only just a psychologist and clinical psychologist, you're also author and you are a mother. So and I'm about to be a mother, first time mother at 43. Oh my God, yeah, people.
Oh, Congratulations. Oh my God. I'm going to send you my book. You can listen to me read it.
Oh my God. When I seen that this book, I said, oh yeah, I need this because like, I'm like so clueless. I've been a babysitter for umpteen years. I have no idea what motherhood is like. And I'm like, this is the perfect conversation because now I need to absorb everything you got to say.
You got it. Here you go. I wrote this book because, so my son is 9 years old. Aww. And about 9 years ago, I don't know when the shift was, but women started being like, this motherhood is bullshit, and I don't like it. And all these books are written by white men who sit in an office telling me what to do or let my baby cry out or all of this stuff. And I'm just like, this is some crazy bullshit. And I thought I had the golden resume for being a mom. So I grew up Mormon, was excommunicated when I married my wonderful wife of 16 years. Yay. And yay, screw you, Mormons. You lost a good one. I'm a good person. Exactly. Yeah, just because I sleep with a woman doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, but that's cool. Do what you do. You do you, I do me. Anyway, no resentment. It's all good. Excuse me. So I had my son who had colic, and what is colic? I didn't even really have a good understanding of that at the time, other than holy shit, towards the evening for 2 or 3 hours it was hell. And then my daughter came along 19 months later, and how lesbians oops into this is its own other story, but we didn't time it quite well. And so I had 2 under 2, and my wife worked at 60 to 80 hours a week. And I'm home with babies and dogs. And I had just, ended an exciting, riveting, mentally stimulating job and career doing neuropsychological assessment, diagnosing dementias, diagnosing children, giving, and I'm home all day. And if one more person had said to me, oh, so you're just a stay-at-home mom? Just? Okay. Oh, my God. I was going to, wring their necks. Yeah. So the book stemmed from me. I had a client that I worked with. This is actually in the preface. But she was, I think, 14 or 15. Chicago's West Side. And her baby daddy broke up with her. And she held her, 4-month-old out of the second-story window by its... I can't remember what gender it was, their feet, threatened to drop the baby if this guy broke up with her. Wow. So she was court mandated to come to therapy. Yes. And she was just a child. Oh my goodness. She came in, she was family system of abuse, history of abuse, never had anybody kind of look her in her eyes and see her humanity or see her soul kind of thing. And so we would just kind of play cards and we'd talk and connect and, we worked through stuff. And I thought, how can people who have no knowledge of how to raise children, what nuggets of information do I feel are most important or vital to them and the health of that child, which then becomes the health of our society? Yeah. Oh my God. And, yeah. So I sat down and and the other thing is as you know, I'm competitive and a part of my brain. I think society driven was saying to me, you're off of work for 8 years. Because I quit my job full time and stayed home with the kids full time. And that, all you stay at home moms, I totally know it. That is the hardest job ever. And then everybody's like, well, what do you do all day? You have all this time in the world. Bullshit. There is no time. There's no time. So I felt that I was kind of losing out in the psychology world, right? However, I was also, I spun it for myself that this was a postdoctorate, intensive training for 7 or 8 years. And I wanted to give people the tools that I felt were most important nuggets to raising a child, because I fought my brain on so many things. My son was 2 weeks old, and my grandma, first thing, he starts to fuss, and I go pick him up. And what do grandmas say? You're going to spoil the baby. Don't pick up the baby. You're going to spoil it. I'm like, Grandma, 2 weeks old, number one. Number two, research says every time you touch a baby, when they ask to be touched, you build their brain dendrites. Wow. So I'm building my baby's brain. And let's remember, Grandma, that the only way an infant knows how to respond or communicate is through crying. Right. And if I don't pick up my child every time they cry, then eventually the child learns to not cry out. And that's what happens when you let a baby cry it out, cry it out method. People do what they have to do. If you work at a factory and sleep deprivation for you means life and death, do the cry it out method if you can. If you don't, then try to just suffer through. Don't let your mental health go too far. But babies don't learn to self-soothe. Yeah. That is the biggest myth. And if we go back a few hundred years, or even in tribal communities now, babies don't live in a room by themselves. Right. That is death to us genetically. Right. If we're in the middle of the jungle and our mama forgets us or somebody leaves us out there, we're going to die. So we cry so that we can smell and feel the connection to our people. Right. When we have that safety, we don't cry. Right. Let your baby sleep with you. Let them sleep in the room with you. Right. They're not going to do it forever, I promise you. At 17, they're not going to be sleeping with you.
Right. Exactly.
Lord. Anyways, I went off on a tangent. But
no, I loved it. No, because it gave so much information. And it's like, that's, my thing, because I'm thinking about this as, becoming a mother. And that whole thing of the babies crying and people, they're going to drive you crazy. And then people are telling me, oh, no, you need to get a crib because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I want the bassinet that goes, like, I literally had to fight with my best friend because I want this bassinet that goes over my bed because I'm like, I want my baby next to me. So when my baby cries, like, I can get a hold of it quickly and not have to run over all to a big crib where it's laying by itself. And I'm still on the fence about that swaddle situation because it seems like a straitjacket, but I don't know.
Swaddling actually, remember what we talked about a little bit ago with you, that what feels familiar. Yeah. Chaos felt familiar. Right. The baby's coming out of a really small, tight space. Right, okay. So when they're crying, when they're swaddled, that to them, they go, oh, this feels familiar. I can't really move very much.
Oh, okay.
And that's why people swaddle. Some kids don't. Once the minute their arms go out, they're like, oh, hell, don't you ever put me back in there.
Yeah, because that's what it looks like. It looks like torture. I'm like, my friend sent me a video.
You can get sacks. Sleep sacks are really good.
Okay.
And you can kind of zip it up. With really small babies, the only real danger you have is you want to make sure that they stay warm, but also their little fingers. They like scratch their face a lot with their nails.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how short you get those nails, damn it. They always scratch. It's a nightmare.
Okay. She's definitely getting
another tangent.
Right. Well, yeah, no, but that's so true. Like, I love that information that you gave because that has been my thing. Like, people talking about, it's going to get spoiled or they're going to be screaming or blah, 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 or keeping it far. And I'm like, I know I'm going to be a helicopter mom, but I want my child to feel what I did not feel growing up. Yes. Like, I didn't feel that connection. I didn't feel, I couldn't go to my mother and get a hug when I needed one. It was like you were shoved off, and it creates a different type of person growing up that could be detached easily. So it's just like, sometimes I don't connect to people because I'm fearful of the rejection, or I feel like I'm being too much, or, all these different things. And then you get all these other issues, like you don't like to be touched, and it's just so much crap that goes on. So the foundation has to be, there from the beginning. So I'm loving that you are giving more stuff for women to be prepared for. So
yeah, right. Yeah. And your doctor, you don't always have to agree with your doctor. My doctor told me forever and ever, get them off the boob, and get them sleeping through the night, and get them, do the whole sleep training. I'm just like, that doesn't feel good to me. So as a mom, you have to do what feels good for you and trust your gut. Just because somebody's a doctor doesn't mean that they specifically know the best for your situation. Right. And I want mothers to be empowered within their own self and their own voice. And it's so scary as a mother because, somebody could see you doing something and call DCFS, and then they come out and they question, and you're just like, what?
Right.
And if you have a different cultural approach to raising children, if you're in some Midwest small little white Christian town, not that that's bad or anything, but and your kids all sleep in the same bed, somebody could get the wrong idea.
Yeah, they think
then they're going to call, and that's unnecessary.
Right. And now you're uprooting a child from a loving home. And putting them somewhere else because of your...
Where they're more than likely going to have the abuse that you think's happening.
Yes, exactly.
Mind your own damn business.
Exactly, because I've seen it. So exactly.
I have too.
Oh God. So yeah, we need some work. That's why, like, starting from the beginning, getting these kids, in a good mental space, like, it does create a better society for the future. Yes. Because, like, I think that's where the problem is. Like, there's so much crap that we were taught years ago and all this stuff. And I feel like if we just make our kids, well, not make our kids, but help our kids be better human beings, then it will be a better society for their generations and generations to come. If we, just teach them to be better humans, just be human, not even be this or be that, be human. And that's exactly right. That's where I really just want this whole mission to be. Like, I feel like I sound like Gandhi or something, but like, I just want this. It's all good. It's all good. You did a lot of good. You're doing good. Totally compare yourself. I love it. But so another thing that I know, like, a lot of, like, did you deal with postpartum or like depression during your pregnancy or after your pregnancy? Because if there's women listening and they're going through this, like, what are the signs of, like, postpartum, or what can they do, or is there a diet or something, or what can they do to cope with these things that overwhelm it, especially with the screaming child? Because that's my big fear, the screaming child. And I know how in the past I dealt with my anger or, like, just overwhelmment. So what, like, and like that, so that's another main reason why I went to therapy, because I'm like, okay, the screaming that I may have to deal with, how am I going to cope with that? Like, and especially doing it on my own. That is, I don't, my family actually didn't scream growing up. It was this underlying ripple of rage, right? Mm-hmm. So not completely, but they weren't screamers. So, but here's the thing, biologically or even not biologically, I noticed when my babies would scream, it was as if somebody was putting nails down my skin from the inside out. Yeah. My body would physically just, like, that baby has to stop crying at whatever we can make it stop crying. Get it. Go get that. Like, give me that baby. Even if I, like, didn't want, like, my daughter, practically I carried her for a year. She wouldn't let anybody else hold her. And I believe in giving babies what they need. Right. And she's absolutely fine. There's no attachment issues. Again, people going, oh, well, you're going to make that baby dependent on you. No, I'm not. I'm going to let her know she's a secure, loving mom who's here for her. And when she's ready, she can go. Right. But it is very hard. And there was one day that my son, he had colic. And so babies with colic just don't kind of stop crying. It just hurts. And I put him in a bassinet or whatever and made sure he was safe. And I went to the farthest corner of the yard I could get to, so I couldn't hear him. And I just cried, and I just cried, and I just cried, because I felt like a failure because my baby was crying. And then I remember some days people just cry, and these are just new humans in the world. And one way I coped with that was when I would get very overwhelmed with the crying, I would try to ground myself using numbers and count how many days old they were versus how many days old I was, to try to give myself a perspective check. But there is a reality of overstimulation for new moms on top of hormones. And so when the baby cries, get some noise canceling headset. Get some earphones to put music so you can't necessarily hear it when it's too much for you, so you can still be present. But it's hard. Postpartum, I had a friend who shared, and again, this is like, there's so much fear that women's babies will be taken from them, or that women will be thrown into mental institutions. Still, in this country, it's unbelievable, and in other countries, but she had postpartum psychosis, and she didn't tell anybody. And she just did not let herself be alone with her child because she knew she would kill him. Oh my God. I had another woman tell me
they were, sleep deprivation doesn't help either. Right. So, and she said she was so sleep deprived, she drove around a fire station 3 times and almost put her baby in one of those boxes because she was so tired. God. And none of this means that we don't, love our kids. I thought, if I got in an accident, that I could at least get a break for a minute and go to the hospital at one point.
Exactly.
You think some crazy shit. It doesn't all mean that it's postpartum. Yeah. If you want to harm yourself, or you feel like you want to harm the baby, or you are so depressed or down that you can't get out of bed and your baby just cries for hours and hours, you need to reach out. Yeah. You need to ask for some help. And if going into this that you might have some issues, or many women have to stop taking their medications when they're pregnant. Right. Again, create your support team. Yeah. Create your network. Talk to your people. The biggest, I had the doctor who did our IVF, he was from South Africa. And he said, if you're, and I agree with this, I think stress is one of the biggest stress is behind any negativity or positivity, right? It's kind of a motivator, but none of us would be here if mothers didn't drink back in the day. Right. Like in England, people drank beer all the time. It wasn't as high percentage that it is today, but they drank it because they would die from the water. And I'm not telling your audience to go out and get drunk. But definitely not saying that. I prefer actually them to probably go and hit a bong or a joint. Because I've done, this country, I can go off on a topic about marijuana as well. I think marijuana is a really good medical drug that we have not used because of, I'm not a conspiracy person, but there's lots of reasons why marijuana has been given the rap it's been given. But there's been a lot of studies in Jamaica, mothers who have a lot of, what is it? Where you throw up first trimester sickness.
Oh, the morning sickness and all
morning that. Sickness, yeah. They have a little bit in their tea or something, and it goes away. Wow. They've done follow-up studies that there was nothing cognitively wrong with those children. Wow. People say, well, if a woman admits in this country to smoking weed and their child has a lot of cognitive or other type of issues, I've been on the other side of the curtain. She's done more than just marijuana, more than likely when she was pregnant. Right. And that's the result of the child. It's not the marijuana. Right. Obviously dose and all that strain. And I'm, again, not advocating for this. What I'm saying is, if you are stressed, what can you do at a minimal level? If it's, eating something, if you need a lunch meat sandwich or a sushi to satisfy, I don't know, I would rather you do that than be stressed. Obviously, you might get sick, and that's not great. Right. I'm not asking everybody to go out and get drunk or get high. That's not it either. But this doctor is essentially saying, let me wrap this shit up. Oh, my God. I'm going to get myself in trouble with somebody here. Just do what you need to do to not get stressed.
No, and
that's the biggest thing.
I totally get that. And so I'll take the rings for that, because it's like, then at least they can say, well, Shatanya told people to drink and smoke. It won't be you.
I think it's all good. I mean, I can justify. I don't say stuff I can't justify. So everything I've shared is
it's so
I'll back
true.
it up. But it's about stress. Yeah. It really is. It's not good to have a lot in your system. But especially when you're pregnant.
It's true, because it makes you, all these things and all these rules and stuff like that make you feel so guilty when you do want to, and then you're already stressed, you're already overwhelmed, you're already super uncomfortable. Like anyone who, people who, say that, and that's going to be another episode for myself, who say like, oh, being pregnant is such a beautiful thing. It sucks for me. It's so uncomfortable. You're getting kicked around. I said, when this baby gets out of here, it's going in a timeout, because I've been.
Exactly. I never found it enjoyable. I gained 100 pounds with both my kids. And my boobs went from a C to a double H. Like my infant daughter's head was smaller than my boobs.
Wow. Oh my God. Yeah, that's where I'm going. Like, I'm like super swollen. I'm like, boobs hurt. Now I'm at a double D. Like, no, because I'm wearing my friend's bra, who's a G. So yeah, because I had to like dig into her closet. So it's just like, it's not a walk in the park. So it's stressful. And then it's like when they got all these other guidelines on you, judging you. So you're like all this stress of being the perfect pregnant mother and being this and being that, and then, working, because my stress is like, okay, have to take time off, but I still need to pay the bills. I'm a single mother and this, that, and the third. So it's just like, wow, like it could be overwhelming. So I'm so glad that you have this book out here for women like myself and other women out here to have, kind of have some grace and, be able to relax. And like you said, have that sushi if that's what's happening or whatever. And, find the least stressful thing and not feel so guilty, because like even with myself, like that's why I put myself in therapy. But I feel sometimes I hold back because I'm so fearful that if I give you too much information about how I'm really feeling, you may come and still take my baby. So it's like you're kind of even scared to ask for help, because and then you don't get treated because you're in this fear that someone's going to come and take your child. But that should also show them that you're not going to try to do anything to purposely hurt your child, because you're actually sacrificing your own sanity to make sure that you have your child.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God. My daughter was 6 months old and got 8 teeth. I slept maybe 2 hours of broken sleep for 7 months. Wow. And it was torture, and it was complete and utter hell. Like, I can imagine. I can't even. It was awful.
Oh my God. Oh, so I'm so happy that you have these tools out here for us women who's like trying to, I guess,
you're breaking the toxic pattern, and I love it. And I'm so grateful that so many people are doing it. You're a pattern breaker, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. So talk. I know you have some other things in the works, and I'm trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because I know we're having such a great conversation, and I feel like I could talk to you all day. Like I'm just trying to like go through my little bullet points and make sure I didn't grab. But I feel like we touched on so many things. The only thing. Oh, okay. So my next question is, and it's a quick question. Like, how do you feel about meditation when it comes to mental health? Like, are you for it or are you against it? Like, how do you feel about, from the scientific part of it? Like, what do you feel about people using meditation as opposed to medication? Because that was my journey. I didn't want to get on medication because I didn't know how it was gonna um, uh, um, work with me, and then I didn't want to not be able to feel my feelings. I didn't want to get numbed that I couldn't understand my feelings. So I chose meditation, but sometimes it's not for everybody. But how do you feel about a person meditating to help their mental health?
I think it's beautiful. I think it is very powerful. Our minds and our ability to control our thoughts and be aware of how we breathe and our body feels. I think it's incredibly powerful. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and there are some things like if you have diabetes, meditation isn't going to help. You need insulin.
Right.
I have ADHD, and for 45 years, I'm the super competitive person. So I thought, yeah, I beat ADHD. And then my life got so busy, I thought, oh my God, why have I never tried medication? Right. This is absolutely mental. And I tried medication for the first time last December, and it changed my life. Wow. And for the better. Some people can change their diet. I love gluten. I don't know. Some people, they say gluten impacts ADHD. A lot of things can impact stuff. Right. But dopamine and some of these medications and the neurotransmitters that they work on definitely can help individuals in the moment. And maybe you don't want to do medication forever, but you maybe need to take it initially just to get to a better place, so that you can then use some more of the alternative. Because remember how I talked about mental health versus mental illness? Right. Mental health means being proactive. That means before you get super depressed, you are doing meditation. You have already learned some of these skills. Gotcha. You already know how to ground yourself when you get anxious. You've done yoga. You've done deep breathing. And those are all preventative. Mental illness can come no matter what. You can prevent as much as you want, and you can still sprain your ankle, So having some of that stuff and ahead of time is great. And I think meditation is incredibly valuable. And I love alternative ways to treating what Western medicine thinks is simply to pop a pill, because it doesn't always work. Sometimes it can, depending on what your diagnosis is, depending on your body chemistry, and also the culture that you come from.
Right. Not so.
And what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
No, so I was gonna just say to the listeners, like, it's so true. Like, so you're feeling certain things, it's okay to go and try and get diagnosed, like find out what's going, like, because I know for myself too, I'm the greatest at a self-diagnosis, and sometimes
we all are,
or self-diagnosis, or going on WebMD. I know my doctors must think that I'm like the biggest hypochondriac, because I remember one time I was B deficient, and I came to the hospital with all these printouts of things from WebMD, and I was crying. I was like, my legs are going to get amputated because if I have this disease. And he said, ma'am, this disease hasn't been going on for years, so you don't have that, but we're going to admit you. I know he wanted to say we're going to admit you to the psych ward, but he said
I know, right? Sometimes you're always worried about that. Again, see, like it's so scary. The psych ward, getting the key lock, you don't want to be on it. That's so funny.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, we're going to admit you, we're going to run some tests, but it was just, go out there and like get some real, find a doctor. And then also, like with myself, find a therapist that works for you, find a doctor that works for you. You have choices. If you go to a doctor and it's just not a good match, it's just not a good match. It's just like dating. I date my doctors. Like, this one is not good, so I'm going to go with this person. And it's not just because they're not saying what you want to hear, but I'm about a doctor who's proactive, that wants to check stuff and, not just, okay, here's a prescription for this and you've done no blood work, you've done no. So that to me is like, okay, no. Date your doctors. And then sometimes you have to get the doctor that, it's like dating multiple people. This doctor is good at this, but this doctor is good at that. So it's just like, feel around, find the therapist that works for you. I tried a therapist before, she was not a good fit, and I left, and then for years I didn't go back, and then now I found one and I love her. So it's just like, okay, you just shop around, find somebody, find some help, find a meditation that works for you, and just like, get on top of your mental health. And then if there's some mental illness, get on top of that. But get yourself, some help and a diagnosis, or, and maybe you're just stressed and you might just need meditation, or you just need to relax. You might just need a vacation. You might just need some weed. Like,
that's right. You gotta hit a fatty, Lord. Go to a state that's legal. This is the craziest shit. They should have legalized this stuff. We had government cheese in the 80s. Like, we need some government weed to fund the health care.
That would have helped.
I got a whole plan, girl. I got a whole plan to solve this nation's problem if we didn't have greedy motherfuckers at the top.
Exactly.
The 1%. We call people who have a bunch of cats and dogs and they hoard all this stuff in their home, we say they have a mental illness. But this country applauds men and women who hoard money from other people, and they think that's valuable. That's a mental illness.
It's so true. It's so true. It comes from a place of lack and a place of scarcity and all this other stuff that does not serve us as a humanity. So it's just like, you know what? And this is just another topic, because that was my thing. This is the reason why I created my podcast, A Pursuit to Happiness, because I used to think like a lot of my triggers, came from a lack of money. And because I became homeless a few times, because, just life. And so like that was one of my real triggers when it came to my mental health, was my money triggers. And I used to always chase money. And then I realized the more I chased it, the less I had. The harder I worked, the less I had. The more successful I was, the more unhappy I was. And then when I really started my journey at my spiritual journey on just finding me and finding my happiness and finding my peace within inside and doing my meditation, that's when everything just started to flow in. And it was like, it wasn't even about the money. It wasn't even about the things. I just needed to find the happiness. And once I found the happiness, everything else fell into place. And it's like, and it was like, it was never outside of me. It was always in me. It's kind of like Dorothy with the clicking of her heels. Like, home was always there. All she needed to do was click her heels and she was going home. But it was always right there. So the answers are there. You can help yourself, and but reach out to people, and just do the work. And we don't want people feeling a kind of way, and we're losing too many people due to suicide and all this other stuff. And it's like, I lost a friend during the pandemic back last October, who committed suicide, and it was heartbreaking to me because and I felt a little bit of guilt, because I'm like, why didn't I see the signs? Like, this is my mission. Like, my mission is to help people in these needs. And I had to go through texts and messages that I had with her, like, where was it that I missed it? Like, where did
sometimes you can't, and I think you brought up something very valuable for your listeners to hear, and for you. Listen, I've worked at prisons. I've worked at lots of different places. You can take away every single thing you think somebody could do to harm themselves. And if somebody wants to do it, they're just going to do it. And you can be there if they ask you to be there. But if they don't want to show you the signs, sometimes people don't. And so you can't beat yourself up about that. You just continue to move forward with exactly what you're doing. You're sharing the story. You're telling people we have to look out for our friends.
No, it's definitely something that's dear to me. And that really shook me, because I was like, this has been my mission. But yeah, we got to talk to people. And before you go, I definitely want to let us know about the things that you got going on, so my my listeners can
they smoking weed, they might be viewing this shit.
They would. They probably are.
I love it. They see it. Well, damn, invite me over. Shit.
I want them to be able to, still be able to get these nuggets from you on their free time, like on your TikTok. And I know that you have some TV and production or something. Like, let us know what's going on. What else is to be expected from Dr. Bethany Cook? Like, what and how can my listeners follow you? And I looked at your TikTok. It's so funny, like your dogs and your daughter cooking. And I'm like, oh, it's so cute. So, like, let us know, like, so we can follow and just be all up in your business.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Come get up in my business. So TikTok for sure. So my handle for TikTok and Instagram is at Dr. B Cook. So DRBCOOK. And I'm a big foodie. I love food, and I love people. I love animals, and I love music. So if you like any or all of those, you're gonna love all of the stuff that I put out. Oh, and mental health, of course.
Yes.
I try to relate everything to mental health and awareness. I have a Facebook group for parenting, but I have a lot of people in it who aren't parents, just if anybody works with kids, and that is called A Perspective on Parenting. And you can also, I think, Dr. Bethany Cook or Dr. B Cook, you can find that on there. And I don't really tweet much, so it's just Insta, TikTok, Facebook, and my website is Dr. Bethany Cook. The doctor spelled out DOCTOR. And I'm always active. It's always me. So if you make a comment on my Facebook, I like Facebook, the platform, because you can write as much as you want, and there's more opportunity for dialogue. And I keep a very safe space for people. So if somebody says something or does something I don't like, I'll have a chat with them or block them or delete the comment, because there's no space in my mind for people being rude.
Oh, me neither.
There's just no time for that.
Yeah.
So those are the things you can kind of follow me on. I do TV interviews and radio, magazine stuff, just talking about anything related to mental health. Yeah. And I try to bring a raw, real, relatable approach. I'm not stuffy or over clinical. And I want people just to have a better life, and I want them to have the tools to have it because it benefits me. It's selfish, because if everybody's happy, or at least has tools to like communicate and have healthy relationships, we're not going to have the judgment and the negativity and that we have right now in the world. And I got upset. Well, we don't have to go there, but I'm sure your audience can know who political parties. I'm not trying to get political here, okay? But I did get upset when somebody was elected president, and I cried for a few days thinking of all the people that were going to be hurt. Yeah. And then I thought, what can I do? I have 2 small kids. What can I do to help? What would be the most helpful? And so I've come up with a TV show. And my TV show is ready to go. So if any of your listeners are like, oh, hey, I got some extra cash, I'll throw Dr. B for a pilot. Yes. And you have a family you want me to work with, let's go and get this done. I have an Emmy-nominated producer. I have people who've got Emmys from Oprah Winfrey doing so my show essentially is, anyway, let me back up. So the most important thing for your mental health is sleep. Okay. Period. Watching a show about sleep is very boring. So the second most important thing about to maintain your mental health is food. This country is notorious for preservatives, like just shit in our food. And what my goal is to help people take baby steps. I'm not taking somebody who eats out all the time to making gourmet meals. I'm saying instead of going out to Popeyes for mac and cheese, let's make maybe a fresher version at home. And essentially what the show is, it's Super Nanny meets Gordon Ramsay's kitchen takeover with an Oprah's feel-good takeaway. I love it. Right? Except it's me. I'm Gordon. And I'm not taking over a restaurant. I'm taking over a family unit. Maybe this family unit shouts all the time and they're having communication problems. And so the show is essentially teaching people how to cook and communicate. And that is the crux of what society, in my view, needs to move forward. We need to feel seen. We need to tolerate our own family members so that we can tolerate others. We need to learn how to communicate. We need awareness that how we have been communicating is actually passive aggressive or negative. And we need to see real people making real changes. And so I would essentially go into somebody's home and we would sit down. The first part of the show is I sit down, I get to know everybody. And let's just say that this family has some anger issues and we shout a lot. So what I'm going to say is if there is, if somebody says something in this tone or this, I'm going to make you say it again, but you're going to sing it this time. I want to restructure these pathways. And you can do it in the moment. So of course, if we're sitting in the living room, nobody's going to yell, right? But if I take them out of a comfortable environment and put them into the kitchen where I'm giving them instructions, their natural tendencies to act how they normally act are going to come up. And it's in that moment that it is most effective. When somebody says or yells, to stop and say, whoa, did you hear that? Let's redo it. And I want you to sing it this time and change your tone. That's when you really rebuild those pathways.
That's so interesting because I think about it. A lot of the chaos in my life did happen in the kitchen.
Yeah, right. It's everything happens in the kitchen. The kitchen is the heart of the home.
Chaos in the kitchen.
It's just about modeling. We don't have anybody modeling right now. Proper communication. Fred Rogers is gone, and he's for a different, generation or age group. And then we've got not generation. He's timeless, but age group. And then the Kardashians, and I'm sorry, but that's not a healthy communication.
Not at all.
And all these reality shows. I'm like, where are the people saying, hey, this is actually what we should do or not do? And I mean, if I fart in a room, I'm going to tell everybody I did it. I'm not going to blame somebody else. So I'm also willing to show my, I'm willing to be vulnerable so that other people can learn and hopefully see that and maybe change their life for the better. And then if everybody does a little bit, can you imagine how amazing the world would be?
Oh my God. I love it. This is the world that we would love to live in, but by the time it gets there, we'll be gone. But that's the
no.
Yeah, but I mean, it can start in your home. Like,
exactly.
it could totally start in your home. And home should be your oasis. Home, and that's what I've always wanted. Home should be the place that you feel the most comfortable at, that you're relieved to go to. Like, you're happy to, oh my God, I can't wait till I get home. How many people sit in front of their house in their car dreading to go inside the house? So,
oh, so many people, so many kids, so many people.
Oh
I did not like to be home. I loved school growing up.
Wow.
Home wasn't a safe place. I didn't get physically abused, but there was some emotional stuff, and just and there's no blame. You know, I'm not blaming parents. And when your parents don't do good by you, you just have to do better for yourself and the next generation. And if you highlight to your parents where they could improve and they don't give a shit, then unfortunately don't hang out with toxic people, even if they're your parents.
Oh my God, I was just having that conversation with my my best friend last night. Like, people have to have the, it's okay. You have permission. Shatanya's giving you permission to cut your toxic parent off.
Yes.
You don't have to keep your parents there, your sisters, brothers, anyone toxic in your life. You are not obligated to keep them in your life. Like, you have the choice of being happy and at peace. So even if it's your mother, especially with mothers, like, even if it's your mother, mothers can be toxic. They have their own story. And for your own, mental health and your own sanity, like, it's okay to cut off a toxic person, that it doesn't matter how they're connected to you. So I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation with you. And I feel like my listeners have gotten some great information, I've learned so much. And it's just, I'm so appreciative of you spending this time with me and my listeners. And I hope to have you again, like, so we could talk about some other stuff. But definitely, I'm glad that you were here with me for, Suicide Awareness Month, and I hope that we've helped someone to, make a different choice, or to seek help, or to be more open, and to talk to someone, and to know that you're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with you because you have these thoughts or whatever, and that you might need help. It's not weakness, because it's not being weak. It's not, oh, I should be better than this, or someone's going to judge me. People are going to judge you regardless. If you're good, they're going to judge you.
They do. Judgy ass people.
Right. You're going to get judged regardless. I remember when I was much heavier, my father would say, oh my God, when are you going to lose some weight? And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to lose weight. And then I lost 200 pounds. And then he said, oh God, you're getting too skinny. You look like a crackhead. And I was like, at that moment, I said, people are never going to be satisfied. So at this point,
they aren't.
I'm done. I'm done trying to satisfy people.
You got to please yourself.
You got to please yourself. So thank you, guys.
This has been so fun being here, and thanks for having me.
And you're welcome.
Anytime, I'm down to chat.
Yay. Thank you. And bye, guys. Thank you guys for listening. And go follow Dr. Bethany Cook on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm going to follow that Facebook page as well, because I'm definitely going to need that. And
I love it. You've got a lot of support on there. You'll have a lot of support.
Perfect. Thank you.